Today, as part of this commitment, the United States, together with the UK, France, Germany, and the EU, is announcing a new partnership with South Africa to help transform their economy to a clean energy economy more quickly.
While the Western world wants to help South Africa move away from coal-generated electricity, local resistance may be hard to manage. South Africa has massive coal reserves and a Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy determined to build more coal-fired power stations. And while Eskom struggles to manage and maintain its existing power stations, it appears the coal industry is keeping the utility on a short leash. Over the past couple of months, Carte Blanche has focused on Mpumalanga's Majuba station, the country's third largest and a serial contributor to blackouts. Scenes like this are common on the road between the town of Amersfoort and the Majuba power station. In 2003, Eskom changed its coal procurement policy to help transform the industry by diversifying supply. Today, various mines scattered across Mpumalanga province sell and deliver coal to Eskom. About 1,500 trucks deliver coal to the station every day. Many coal transport companies as well as small mines were developed purely for this purpose, which has created an entire ecosystem to which Eskom has admittedly lost control. Currently, coal sells for roughly 460 rand per ton. A truck like this carries at least 30 tons, meaning one truckload of coal costs in the region of 13,800 rand. Multiply that by 1,500 trucks, and a back-of-the-envelope calculation suggests Eskom is spending more than 20 million rand each day to keep Majuba supplied with coal. Most of Eskom's power stations are connected to their own coal mines. Majuba also had a mine, but it was closed down in 1996. This is the original shaft of the mine that was sunk in the 1980s. The reason given for the sudden closure was described as an unforeseen geological fault. Energy expert 𝗀𝗫𝗏𝗀𝗏 explains that the so-called fault was only realized when the station was already under construction.
They found that the coal seam underground was very much broken up and could not be mined as a continuous coal seam, and in fact couldn't really be mined in any way for this power station. So the whole idea of having a tired colliery next to the power station came to an end.
That means Eskom had a power station but no coal. Its first unit was connected to the grid in 1996 and needed about 8 million tons of coal annually. The solution? Transport coal to the power station by rail by constructing what's known as a branch link from Majuba to the station at Palmfort. From there, it connected to the existing Durban line. This is the old Palmfort line, which was built in the 90s but cannot meet Majuba's full demand. Behind me is a tippler system which was built specifically for the Palmfort line, where the train wagons would come through and here they would then dump the coal onto a conveyor belt. By 2001, Majuba's coal needs had increased to 14 million tons per year, substantially more than the Palmfort railway line could carry. With trucks making up some of the shortfall, Eskom decided a new railway line was needed to meet the total demand. They simply called it the Majuba or Ermelo line.
They had to build another line which was coming 68 kilometers from the Richards Bay line to Majuba, and that could supply 100% of the coal, and it was cheaper.
In theory, the Majuba line can supply all 14 million tons of coal needed by the power station each year by linking to the main Richards Bay line, which delivers top-quality coal for export. The brand new Majuba line is much longer than the Palmfort line, as project manager 𝗀𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗀 explains.
The Palmfort line comes south of the station, as you can see, the coal stockyard. But at the end of the Majuba yard, we got the new Ermelo line that goes straight across all the way to Ermelo.
Construction of the 68-kilometer Majuba railway started in 2011. It's now a decade later and the line is a vandalized white elephant. Eskom said the Majuba line would be fully operational by 2020, but then in December 2019, sabotage was investigated after the conveyor belt burned down. This is the conveyor belt which moves the coal from the tippler to the boilers. And right here in 2019 is where it mysteriously burned. The conveyor belt connects the tippler system situated on the railway to the boilers. The 𝗃𝗏 was built when the 𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗴𝗆 line was built in 1996, but the Majuba line can also use it to offload its wagons. Now, because a fully operational Majuba line is capable of meeting the power station's entire annual coal requirement, trucking businesses are under threat.
They rely on the ongoing success of this business, otherwise they go bankrupt. And this creates a kind of a momentum that is very hard to stop. And in fact, there's massive resistance to try and stop this process.
Manje lesiporo masingasebenza uzenza kanjani?
Futhi lama truck vele azostop.
Kusho ukuthini for nina ke?
Siyalamba thina manje.
In a wide-ranging interview last month, Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter repeated that the utility had in the past lost control of the quality of coal delivered by road.
En route, trucks were relieved of some of the coal that they carried. They were filled with water or with metal to get the weight right. And this mixture, which obviously doesn't burn so well, was then deposited at our power stations, and it caused damage to the power stations.
De Ruyter now insists the trucks are properly sealed. If the delivered coal is mixed with rubble to increase weight and therefore payment, it can damage the boilers that generate the steam needed to make electricity. Prof. 𝗀𝗶𝗀𝗆 from the Wits School of Electrical Engineering explains that the power stations were not designed to burn a fruit salad of different grades of coal.
They can overheat and burst, and you need to shut down. They can also build up slack around them if your coal is not of the right grade and you don't get as much power out of the system as you would like to. What we need to understand is every power station is optimized for a specific grade of coal.
Each time the tubes inside the boilers break, the unit is switched off, cooled down, fixed and started up again, with power cuts the inevitable outcome. But what if the Majuba railway line was up and running? Would Eskom regain control of its coal supply? During his interview, de Ruyter assured us trains were running.
So we've just in the past week seen the railway 𝗃𝗏𝗴𝗆 that we have installed to enable us to reduce the number of trucks on the road from 1,400 per day to less than 200 a day. That railway 𝗃𝗏𝗴𝗆 was finally commissioned after extensive delays caused by procurement, amongst other things. We are now in a position where we can again transport coal by rail to Majuba.
And how soon will that be?
That is happening right now.
It's happening right
Yes.
now. So that rail line is actually active now,
Correct.
after all those delays.
Correct.
But de Ruyter is referring to the old 𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗆𝗆 line and couldn't say when the Majuba line will be operational. On 2 recent visits to the power station, no coal was being delivered by rail, not even on the old 𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗆𝗆 line. The 𝗃𝗏𝗴𝗆𝗆 offloading system was only switched on for us to film. Back at Eskom, we sought answers from Senior Project Manager 𝗀𝗵𝗀𝗆.
And the head of Group Capital is paying. Most of the work is done, apart from the issues that we have had to deal with of theft and vandalism that has happened recently in the past 2-3 years. Of completed infrastructure, by the way. I mean, the 68-kilometer line is complete to the extent that we are at the stage where by the end of November this year, we should be able to come back on the 𝗶𝗴𝗆𝗆 line and at the minimum run 3 trains per day supplying coal to Majuba.
But 𝗀𝗀𝗆 is also referring to the older 𝗶𝗴𝗆𝗆 line. It would seem there's a reluctance to address the white elephant in the room. When will the Majuba line begin operating, allowing Eskom greater control of coal supply and likely avoiding further damage to the power station? 𝗀𝗀𝗆 did have a view on the second part of that question, saying there's no link between the supply of coal via road and the performance of the power station.
There is no constraint as a result of coal not being moved via rail. There's no constraint regarding the productivity of the station. There is no direct link to load shedding as a result of Majuba, as far as I'm aware.
In a written reply, Eskom said a unit was shut down at Majuba beginning November because of a leak in a boiler tube. This was the same week in which 𝗀𝗀𝗆𝗆 was interviewed and South Africa experienced extended blackouts. Majuba is a good example of how the coal industry can determine the direction of a utility as large as Eskom, seemingly with little counter-resistance. Even while the world is trying to assist South Africa in cleaning its heavy carbon footprint, cutting the lifeline for coal operators can have devastating effects.